All right, Paul Sutter, the program chair for 2013 AHA, is now joining us. Paul, thanks so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
I understand that you received a record number of proposals for this year's meeting. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was remarkable. We received more than 500 proposals, which is the first time, as far as I know, maybe in AHA's history that we've had more than 500. As little as 2 years ago, it was in the low 300s, and I think last year 400 something. So we've seen astronomical growth in the number of proposals, and it unfortunately made our job
a little difficult,
much more
yes.
difficult. The other thing I think was the first time this ever happened at AHA is we had to reject more than half of the session proposals. And again, I think as little as 2 years ago, the acceptance rate was close to 80%. So it was very difficult, and I will say, kudos to the membership. I received almost no complaints about this, but our job was tricky, but we hope that that's reflected in a high quality program.
And besides encouraging proposals that fit this year's themes, lives, places, stories, which I love, you're also continuing the discussion of the digital revolution. Talk about that.
So last year, Tony Grafton, who was president, made as a central theme digital history, and Bill Cronin, who has had an abiding interest in this as well, wanted to continue that, but also expand it out a little bit. And I think it's important that his approach has been to talk about what he calls the public practice of history in and for a digital age. So rather than talking specifically about the doing of and the participation in digital history, he wants to talk about how all historians are going to have to contend with, in one way or another, the practice of history and the public practice of history in this digital age. I think AHA in many ways needs to be a sort of state-of-the-art conference, and I think digital history and the public practice of history in a digital age are critical to sort of bringing that to the broader profession. And so I think that, to my mind, that's why it's so important that we focus on these issues here at the AHA.
And how do you think that the discussion about the digital revolution has changed over the past year, especially since that last conference?
Yeah, again, I would focus particularly on this question of taking the digital history focus from last year and broadening it out and try to pull as many people in. I think certain historians, and myself included, I don't consider myself a digital historian, can be a little bit intimidated by the digital, sometimes along generational fault lines and sometimes just along, one's comfort with technology. But I think the focus this year has really been on getting everyone to recognize that what it means to be a historian, what it means to do history, what it means to practice public history has been changed dramatically by these new technologies and the other habits of mind and practices that come with them. And we all need to recognize that and contend with that to one degree or another.
I have to ask you, what are you most excited about at this year's conference?
Well, one of the great things about being AHA program chair and being on the committee is that the AHA flies us into Washington twice to first just have a weekend of brainstorming. And I'd only met one other committee member before that weekend, and we were a remarkably congenial group, and we developed all these ideas of sessions we wanted to put together. And I think also the program committee created a record number of sessions on our own, something like 30 sessions. And so I'm, in many ways, most looking forward to seeing how those turned out from initial sort of germ of an idea. And I've already seen a couple of them, and they've been great, and I'm off to another one right now.
Wonderful. Well, enjoy the conference. Hope you get to enjoy a little bit of New Orleans as well. Paul Sutter, 2013 program chair, very busy man, I know. Thanks so much for taking time out to join us today.